Here in the fiery heart of the subterranean world, the very air pressed down like a heavy shroud, oppressive to all but those born inured to its depths, the Black Elves. Now sovereign in these endless caverns were not always creatures of this domain. Their origins, for the most part, had been a mystery, spoken of only in hushed tones. Some say these dark denizens once dwelt beneath the open sky, kin to the radiant elves of the surface, until exile drove them into the world below for their deeds of ill repute. This ancient tale, ever whispered in the lilting language of the light elves, bore the unmistakable stain of prejudice. Yet, for all the bitterness of old lore, the dark elves were not so wholly other, nor as monstrous as their angelic cousins would claim. Blood and memory bound them still to the surface folk, but there was one marked difference. The Black Elves, through countless ages and adaptation, had mastered the perils of the underworld, enduring what their kin above could not. Here, the air was thick with stifling damp and the biting stench of sulphur. Jagged walls gleamed with moisture, each droplet descending like a tear from the weary stone above. Through these treacherous passages, Malgent moved in silence, treading a path seldom chosen by any soul. It was a dangerous way, but swift, and it led to the forbidden cavern, a sanctum set aside for the Grand Dowager and her High Priestess alone. He was keenly aware that Seana had unravelled his ruse, her sharp mind not easily deceived. The novelty of his magic had faded. She would now be vigilant, her own arcane arts poised to counter his every move. Any further subterfuge would be met with equal cunning. The path treaded beneath the earth, beneath the weight of massive stalactites hanging like the swords of Damocles, their edges catching the light of molten rock that coursed through narrow veins, a baleful glow that flickered across the stone. Deeper still he pressed, through twisting lava tunnels, until at last he came upon an entrance, unguarded, yet bound by magic. Above this chamber, in shadow, lay a forgotten opening, its seal, a fallen slab of obsidian cast loose by a recent quake. The High Priestess, upon discovering the stone, utterly failed to grasp its import and was blind to the passage it once sealed. To reach this hidden way demanded a perilous ascent, for there was no light to guide the hand, nor foot. From below, the opening was nearly impossible to see, but Malgent's memory served him well. He had seen the seal fall and had glimpsed the brief spark of light that marked the threshold. He had already climbed there once and crossed beyond, for this is where he had come to commune with Silkara. From his leather case he withdrew a scroll, its surface inscribed with arcane script. Unfurling it with care, he whispered the words, "Invokla, Idea, Limba." As the final syllable faded, the parchment crumbled to ash, and the spell took root. His limbs grew weightless, his grip sure, and he ascended the sheer, inverted walls with the silent grace of a spider. At the narrow, unlit entrance, he slipped into the collapsed passage, tight, twisting, yet passable. It was clear this secret corridor once served a purpose, now forgotten by all but stone and time. Malgent pushed his leather case ahead, wriggling through the most constricted bends. At last, a glimmer of light called to him. He followed it, emerging into a vast, ethereal chamber, its polished stone walls soaring upward until they vanished into darkness. At the heart of the chamber lay a great pool, its restless surface churned by the heat of hidden fires below. The waters glowed in hues of molten orange and blood red, their light dancing over the uneven ground. From high above, a stream cascaded down like a silver veil, feeding the pool and sending up billows of steam that curled and writhed through the still air. The hush was broken only by the hiss of escaping vapor and the distant tremor of shifting earth as the steam vanished through a shadowed cleft overhead. Around the pool, the ground bore the marks of monstrous creatures, deep ruts and prints strewn with blackened shards of volcanic stone. Luminous moss clung to the wet rock, casting a faint, spectral glow, while phosphorescent fungi dotted the darkness, their phantom blue radiance stark against the fiery reflection of the pool. Deeper still, the tunnels widened into caverns vast and adorned with crystals, sharp as fangs, jutting from the walls. Each shard refracted the orange glow, scattering it in 1,000 shifting patterns across the chamber. Malgent had ventured here before, driven by an insatiable curiosity, or perhaps a reckless audacity. The recent ash fall from the world above had cloaked the subterranean realm in ominous silence. Back then, guided by a blend of desperation and perhaps boldness as well, he had sought the feared goddess Silkara, hoping she might grant his deepest desire. Yet, he was acutely aware of the peril his hubris invited. The goddess was known for her merciless nature, and he risked her wrath with every whispered invocation. Upon his arrival, the goddess did not stir, not right away. Her dormancy was a reprieve, albeit a fleeting one. Malgent's call had unwittingly roused her from slumber. The air grew charged with her awakening, like a silent storm brewing in the depths of the cavern. Aware of the goddess's unpredictable nature, Malgent braced himself for her ire, but instead was met with an unexpected twist of fate. Silkara, rather than smiting him for his impudence, bestowed upon him a task, a challenge that promised a reward should he prove himself worthy. Her presence was intangible, a spectral vision, her voice a haunting echo that resonated through the cavern's expanse. This was why Malgent had returned. The task the goddess had set before him was complete, and he stood ready to claim the promised reward. As he intoned her name, the air resonated with a faint, otherworldly hum, a hum which guided him irresistibly toward the crystalline formations that fringed the cavern's edge. There he paused, attuned to the subtle breath of transformation. The vapor above the molten pool stirred, curling into a dense fog that cloaked the chamber. The mist descended, weaving an unnatural silence that enveloped the space. In the stillness, he listened. From within the mist emerged an ancient, primal rumble. In the theatre of his mind, he envisioned a colossal creature, with appendages like wings stretching wide in the darkness. Was this a prophetic vision, or merely a manifestation of his deepest dread? The boundary between the two blurred, for he felt there was little in this world that he truly feared. Then, a clear and familiar voice manifested from above the pool. It was unmistakable. It was her, the dark Queen Silkara, her presence commanding the cavern. Her tone, though soft, echoed faintly. She began. "I did converse with thy mother this day," she said. Malgent was silent. His expression remained unreadable as he considered a response. The voice continued. "Art thou not grieved by the demise of thy father?" Silkara inquired, her gaze piercing through the shadows between them. "I knew not my father," Malgent replied. "He holdeth no consequence for me." His tone cold, though it was expected. "Alas," Silkara lamented, pausing briefly before continuing, "it doth perplex me, thy kind's indifference towards one another, particularly those who should be nearest unto thee. And yet, though thy kind doth indeed possess the capacity for love, it doth seem as a frailty. What dost thou reckon the cause of this to be?" she said. "It maketh no difference to me," Malgent responded, his tone unwavering. "Aye, verily," Silkara mused. "'Tis but a trifling sacrifice for thy cause." She paused, then added, "Didst thou know that the contrary of love is not hate, but indifference?" The silence lingered heavily. "How did thy brethren receive the tidings of thy father's demise?" she pressed on. "They did not," Malgent stated, his words devoid of emotion. "They shared in his fate," he said. Silkara, apparently unfazed, continued. "When I did converse with thy mother, she spake of the scroll. She said that it had been recovered and restored unto the vault." Another pause, the silence stretching between them like a taut string. "Didst thou fail in thy task?" she said, her spectral eyes narrowed sharply. "Or didst thou alter thy mind?" she inquired suspiciously. Malgent's demeanour hardened. "Thou didst vow unto me a meed," he said. "Can I place mine trust in thy word?" he asked. Silkara's irritation flared. "Dost thou inquire of me this now, after I did wait for thee to bring me the scroll? Yet it appeareth that thou hast not done so," she said sharply. Malgent countered, unfazed by her accusation. "Oh, but I did," he said with conviction. Silkara studied him intently. "Didst thou?" she queried, amusement in her eyes. "Then give it hither," she demanded. Malgent remained firm. "First, keep thou thy promise to me, and I shall keep mine to thee," he said. Silkara's temper flared. "Be not a fool," she snapped, before swiftly regaining her composure. "If thou dost persist in thy arrogance, thou shalt tempt another side of me." She paused before continuing. "Yet, that is not who I am. Therefore, take heed, black elf." She manifested herself in a spectral humanoid form, the apparition hovering gracefully above the pool of water. Her skin was of a fair and ethereal hue, much akin to the elves of light, with a delicate, almost luminescent glow that seemed to capture the very essence of moonlight. Her ears were elegantly pointed, an unmistakable hallmark of her elven heritage. Despite her being known as the Dark Queen, there was nothing dark about her appearance. Her hair cascaded in silken waves down her back, shimmering like spun silver. Her eyes, a piercing, crystalline blue that held the depth of 1,000 secrets. Her features were exquisitely balanced, with high cheekbones and a graceful, slender neck that lent her an air of regal authority. Her lips, full and perfectly shaped, bore a Delphic smile that seemed to hold allure. Her attire flowed around her in diaphanous wisps, adorned with delicate patterns that shimmered brightly. Her presence was captivating, commanding attention with an irresistible charm, a charm that belied her formidable power. She continued, "And yet, with all mine power, thou dost seem to hold me at thy mercy." Malgent found himself intrigued by her declaration. Though he understood the underlying reasons behind her words, the mere fact that she had voiced them revealed a hint of desperation within her. Here stood a goddess, seemingly at his mercy, and for a fleeting moment she appeared almost resigned, as if surrendering to a fate beyond her control. "I am sorely weary of this place," she said. "This prison," she added. "Grant me the scroll, that I might be freed from this heaven-forsaken underworld." She paused, her voice softening. "I shall duly address the matter of thy mother, who did order thy father's execution, and doubtless thy brethren's as well," her voice weaving as though attempting to bargain for the parchment. Her gaze upon his was unyielding. "Is it not that which thou desirest, revenge?" Malgent narrowed his eyes. "I seek that which thou promised me," he stated. "Thou art the one who desires revenge," he said. Silkara broke into a mild rage, her voice rising. "And should not revenge be mine to claim? Thy mother, the Grand Dowager, is the one who doth enslave." She abruptly silenced herself, as if catching a slip in the heat of the moment. "I am weary of her bidding," she finished. "But thou art a goddess," said Malgent. "In our tongue thou art hailed as the Dark Queen of Queens. I did reckon thou didst thine own bidding, not that of a mere matron," Malgent remarked. There was some sarcasm in his tone. Silkara responded, "There is much of which thou art unaware. Male spawn." Her words a reminder of his place. Though she named him Spawn, it was relative only to her, for dark elves, like all elven kind, are famed for their longevity and agelessness. Silkara, venerated as a deity within this sphere, possessed a power that eclipsed even the most formidable sorcerers of the realm. Tales of her shape-shifting prowess whispered through the ages, showcasing her magic, apparently limitless, and her potential to fulfill the most profound wishes of mortals. Her existence stretched far beyond the dawn of dark elven society, yet she found herself ensnared by a cruel and cunning ploy. Half a millennium ago, the Grand Dowager, with unparalleled guile, had entrapped Silkara through trickery, binding her to eternal servitude born of treachery. Silkara became a prisoner, her redoubtable might subjugated to the whims of a mortal matron. Malgent had suspected this truth about her imprisonment, viewing her as a sorceress of unmatched prowess rather than an actual goddess. Though he desired what she possessed, immortality and power, he sought it without confinement. This was what she promised he would have in return for his deed to her. With the power he would obtain, he might be able to fulfill his own objective, but that was a thought he kept to himself. Her true form, hidden, remained unknown. The key to Silkara's emancipation lay concealed within the cryptic text of the black spool scroll. Yet it could not be torn from another's grasp. It had to be freely bestowed upon her. Malgent had contemplated the consequences of relinquishing the scroll to Silkara, certain it would unleash havoc in this section of the underworld. But this black scroll was his solitary leverage. He dared not give it to her freely without some reassurance of reward. Silkara's demeanour calmed, the fiery rage subsiding into a measured stillness. Her voice emerged from the silence, her tone poised. "Hast thou brought the scroll with thee?" she said. "Dost thou possess it within thy keeping?" Malgent nodded in affirmation. Silkara continued. "Then prithee, present it unto me," she urged, eyes alight with the promise of liberation. Malgent studied her with suspicion, his eyes narrowed. "If I bestow it upon thee, what then shall come to pass?" he said, revealing his misgivings about her true intentions. "Tell me, O goddess of the realm, what fate awaits Enrăw once thou art unfettered?" he inquired, weighing the potential consequences. Silkara patiently considered a response. "I perceive thy mistrust, and rightfully so," she conceded, her acknowledgment a rare gesture of understanding. "Yet if thou wilt yield a measure, so shall I." Malgent remained unscrutably silent. He withdrew the parchment from his satchel, demonstrating its presence. Silkara's eyes riveted on the scroll. There was no mistake. It was genuine. She could almost feel it, lying tantalizingly close. Yet the chasm between them was not of distance, but of intent. It must be given freely. Her mind teetered between desperation and cunning, a tempest of fervour lurking beneath her composed exterior. "I shall fulfil thy deepest longing," she said. "Shouldst thou bestow the scroll upon me, now?" She vowed, her voice a siren's call, a seductive blend of assurance and allure. Malgent, rightfully, harboured distrust toward the Dark Queen, wary of her true intentions. "I didst just render mine own measure unto thee," he said. "Behold, the scroll is revealed." He returned the parchment to his bag, then added, "Now 'tis upon thee to render thy part." Silkara lamented quietly, her thoughts drifting to a past she could not alter. A weighty silence lingered long before she finally spoke. "When the sun doth set and all deeds are done, I cannot restore thy paramour," she confessed, a rare admission of her limitations. She alluded to a clandestine lover from Malgent's past, whose affair had led to a personal downfall that haunted him still. Her words were not just an admission, but also a calculated maneuver to touch upon Malgent's own hidden desires. Malgent, for his part, would never broach the topic, and would swiftly deflect any mention of it. Her words stirred within Malgent a memory long buried, a past he had tried to expunge from his mind. Though the pain ran deep, he refused to acknowledge it, nor would he ever mention it again. His voice was steady as he replied, "I ne'er bade thee resurrect her. Acceptance hath been mine of her, passage from this realm." Silkara's expression brimmed with empathy as she glided toward him, her presence ethereal yet profoundly real. Her delicate hand rested upon his arm, a touch that transcended her apparitional guise, a gentle, soothing presence that seemed to promise understanding. Her voice was soft and knowing as she spoke. "Yet," she began, her words lingering off her lips like a whisper as her warm, soft fingers ascended to his face. The touch was tender and intimate. He could actually feel it sending a surge through him and momentarily holding him captive, as if it was what he desired. Her ethereal caress was tangible and seemed to reach into the depths of his soul, stirring memories and emotions he had long buried. "She dwells within thy thoughts, as clear as daylight to mine eyes," she continued, her insight unerring, exploiting the vulnerability she had skillfully unearthed, leaving him defenseless before her. "Thou art unlike thy brethren. Wherefore doth thou bind thy heart so singularly to one, when matrons customarily take many? Thy choice speaketh of a bond far deeper than mere procreation. What a testament to thy care and devotion unto her! Such love, rare though it be, doth set thee apart in a world of hearts oft divided." Maldant fought to compose himself, recognizing this as a manipulation. He had weighed the risk of dealing with Silkara, knowing she offered a path to power and immortality, yet, in the back of his mind, he held a conviction that, with such power, he would be able to achieve what she could not. "Thou speakest falsehoods, naught dost thou see of such," Maldant retorted, his denial firm. Silkara countered. "The sole falsehood is that which thou utterest unto thine own self," her words cutting through the pretense. Maldant responded back. "Then let us leave it thus, and speak no more of it," he concluded, drawing the conversation to a close. Realizing Maldant's resolve against her manipulations, Silkara gracefully retreated to her original stance. "As is thy will," she acquiesced, the finality of her words settling over the chamber like a closing curtain as both entities held their secrets close in the flickering shadows of the cavern. She continued, "I shall keep my word and yield this unto thee, a warning," she said. Maldant's expression sharpened, revealing his intrigue. After a delay, Silkara continued, "One day," she said, "as I have, thou shalt regret the choice thou makest now. For the power thou seekest cometh not without a price." She paused thoughtfully, then continued, "And this is that which thou desirest?" she said. Maldant nodded, believing himself fully apprised regarding the cost of his pursuit. "Very well then," Silkara said, her voice regaining its authority. She paused, gathering her thoughts. "On the eastern corner of the labyrinth pass, deep within the everlasting murk, there lieth the tomb of the grand matriarch of the once mighty dragons. Thou must go thither," she said. Maldant's curiosity was piqued. "What shall I find?" he inquired. Silkara answered, "There thou shalt find a spectral ambassador, who shall grant thee admission into an ordeal of judgment," she explained. Maldant tilted his head in an attempt to process her words. "Judgment, thou sayest. Of what nature?" he inquired. Silkara answered, "The judgment is akin to a tribulation of fire, an assay of the Magi. It doth serve as a contest to determine the worthiness of a magus." "But I am not a magus," Maldant protested. "It mattereth not. If thou art able to find the tomb, that alone shall prove thy worthiness," Silkara assured him. "Thou hast already told me," Maldant remarked. "The tomb is on the eastern corner of the labyrinth pass, deep within the everlasting murk," he clarified, ensuring he understood. "Yet," Silkara added, "finding the tomb within the murk is the challenge that awaiteth thee," she warned, her voice firm yet encouraging. "Pray, tell me of this tribulation," Maldante requested, eager to know more about it.